Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark. In this episode, I am joined by Cameron Unger, the founder of Trash and Stash, a green junk removal company that actually balances purpose with profit. We talk about what his crew sees when they back up their trucks, why we hold on to things we don't even like, and how bringing real awareness to your space can stop the constant cycle of buying and discarding. Hello, Cameron. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show, because what you do, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, usually ladies, but there are some gentlemen, what Cameron and his business does is so freaking amazing and obviously works with Declutter for Change. So, Cameron, let us know how you got into what you do, why you even started it, and then also tell us about, because I love what you stand for as a business as well.
Yeah. Getting into the junk removal business was not in the bingo card of life for me. So it was not part of the master plan. It's really a COVID baby. So my previous career in life, I was in the events business. I used to manage stadiums and arenas. I'd spent most of my career on college campuses. And so working in 5,000 seat basketball arenas, doing that sort of thing. And the events business is fun and interesting because it's so multidisciplinary and your hands are involved in a little bit of everything. And
Just
through that line,
yes.
yeah, I used to always joke that like the finale of The Apprentice was always an event because you get all these business functions that happen in a very compressed timeline. And so that was the reality of the events business. You get to plan and plan and plan, and then the doors open, and now all of a sudden you're reacting. And so that was my career up to that point. But in March of 2020, when you're in the business of public assembly and the public can no longer assemble, I had to figure something else out. I liked that line of work, but I was ready for a change. It's one of those things where you're working when everybody else is recreating. I have 3 kids, and I was looking for a little more of work-life balance, and so I was pretty resigned to the fact that that part of my career was ready to pivot. And COVID was
Like
what
it or
it was.
not, everyone's career, I think, pivoted at that point.
Yeah, and I think that was really like, it was difficult on a lot of people, and losing your job is never easy, but it was one of those times where like, okay, I have some time to be able to reinvent myself, explore, study. And so that was an unusual opportunity to be able to take advantage of. But I knew I wanted to go out and do, I love the idea of a sweaty startup. I wanted to go out and work and earn with my hands. I was feeling like a widget at that point. Like I was this middle manager, and in the absence of a space and in the absence of people to manage, like I really, how can I provide? And so I wanted to go out and learn how to provide. And going back to the events days, I was, always interested in running lean and green events. I had started, I wanted to do a green game for our basketball season. So every year we would do one green game where we went zero waste. And so it would be a televised game, and we do all these environmental facts, and we make a ceremony of our ushers coming down and picking up trash. And the intention of that was to say, if we can do it for one game, we can do it for every game, to be able to set a precedent for that. So that was always kind of in my DNA. But then I'm looking around at that time, and I'm seeing garages full of stuff and empty of cars. I'm seeing moving trucks on every street. We're here in the Charlotte area. There's storage units being built faster than houses. And so I'm like, okay, like we've got collectively a stuff problem, and there's a need, there's a demand for the sort of, for somebody to be able to come in. It was a trades business that I could start, sort of going with that sweaty startup idea. And I didn't have to go and be a plumbing apprentice or electrician's apprentice. Like the barrier to entry was relatively low. It was a trade I could go out and get started. And so bought a truck, parked it in my driveway, and had a junk. I'd never even stepped foot in a landfill prior to starting this business. So I had a truck in my driveway with no real idea how to use it at that point. But that's how we got rolling.
That's hilarious that you've never even been to. See, I've been to mine a few times just because of obviously my own business and stuff. And I'm the same way. Like listeners, one of the things they said, like it's the what is it? The junk and no trash and stash. That's what it is. That's what your
Yes.
business name is. Sorry. Um, and the stash part is if you find something that somebody has, it's still in good use, you donate it, you find a place for it because it still has use, as opposed to throwing it in the trash. And that's what I try and do as well with the stuff that we have. Anytime I, clear out a like a house or anything like that, like the people at my secondhand store absolutely have gotten to know me. There is
Yeah.
no doubt
Yeah.
about it. I try and do one day and then, one the next or whatever, just so I'm not overwhelming them. But again, it's the same thing. I love how yeah, you get it that, I was reading your site and stuff like that, where you were saying like, okay, yeah, it's great that we collect all the junk and we, collect all the garbage and then I bring it to the dump, but then that's just another problem. So what else can we do? So from that, when did you come from the, okay, yeah, there's a lot of garbage because hi, Marie Kondo in 2020, I'm sure there was a lot of people that were clearing out their space and having all the junk everywhere because she did like a huge, like everyone was clearing out their space in 2020, 2021 because of her Bring Joy, whatever I forget what the actual Netflix thing was. I obviously never watched it because I just knew it was sensationalized. So I was like, no.
Right.
But what got you to the point of, hey, I'm collecting junk, putting it at the dump, but then like what was the like aha moment for you to go, no, there's more to this even?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was two things. One, like at the outset, one of the reasons I think junk removal was appealing to me was during COVID, I was watching my kids who had never really had screen issues, and now all of a sudden they're just glued to their screen. And I'm like, they're being sold to, like they're being sold stuff they don't need, never wanted before they put this thing in their hand, and so there's this like really targeted, really aggressive consumerism sort of thing that's happening.
Really aggressive.
And so I'm like, I don't want to contribute to that. So let's go the opposite way and let's just make it all go away. And so this was Trash and Stash was my fist in the air saying, I'm going to fight this mass consumerism. I'm going to protect my kids and protect. And so it really started it with this like idea of minimalism and just getting rid of that. And then the other distinct moment was I remember being in a woman's house and her husband had just passed away and she had a basement full of stuff. It wasn't a hoarding situation, but they were collectors and so it was a lifetime of collection down in this basement. And so we're walking through and none of it's trash. It's all nice stuff. And so she's just sort of randomly pointing like, take that, take that, take that. And I could tell like the stuff was causing a lot of like noise in her head. Like it was just friction and like heaviness. And so the things that she was having us remove were things that she was not personally connected to. It was like, I just make that go away, make that go away. And that was her filter to be able to start to deal with the gravity of the other stuff, of the loss and the more emotional things. And so it's just make this stuff go away. So we did. We took it out of her house and we're sitting in the landfill and we're throwing it away. And we're like, this feels bad. Like we helped her, like we solved her problem. So she is now able to move forward with the next steps of her grieving process and her household management. But we're contributing to this other larger problem, which is this endless stream of trucks are coming in and out of this landfill, and this pile is getting bigger and bigger, and we've just added to it. So have we really solved anything in the grand scheme of things? And so that was, I think, the origin of this. And from there, we're like, well, we can donate, we'll donate some of the stuff, but you take an armoire to Habitat for Humanity and they don't want it, or a large executive that's it's too big, it's too heavy, like there's not a huge demand for it, there's a very specific audience for it, and so like we'll take what we can, but let's try to resell it. And so we'll create this Second Life program where we can resell some of these items. And we're looking at our Second Life, and we're like, well, people may not love this idea that they're paying us a fee to remove it from their house, and now we're going and we're selling it, and they might perceive us to be double dipping. We're not, because there's a cost for us to take these things, to warehouse them, to transport them, to list them. Like it takes effort and time and money to be able to do that. So we're not earning anything from that, but we're like, we don't want that perception to be out there. We don't want to have to constantly defend our position.
Exactly.
So, so we got involved with a local organization called the Isabel Santos Foundation. They raise money for rare pediatric cancer research. We said, well, how about we donate the money to them that we take in, that we take from selling these items. And so that's what we started to do, was to donate half of the proceeds to Isabel Santos Foundation. The other half we kept and I paid back to my crew as a bonus, with
That's
the
awesome.
intention. Yes. Well, the idea was, like, it's easy to go to the dump. Like, and we still do it more often than we should, just because we do a lot of jobs every day. And sometimes just getting from one place to the next or packing a truck to be able to protect items is difficult. Um, but I'm like, if we can incentivize them to do that more often than not, then that should be how our systems work. So it was really just sort of organic, like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And so that was sort of the origin of it.
So I want to actually go back to the lady that you had originally helped. That was, one of those aha, like she was looking at her stuff. Because that's one of the main topics that I wanted to talk about today is why do you feel that people keep their stuff? Like I know I've obviously had many, like I have a cleaning business on the side as well, like a local cleaning business. So they're all seniors. And I see like when they have to downsize or when they have to whatever, like, or, when one of the partner passes and they have to have their stuff removed or they have to downsize or they're moving with family. But why do you think that people are attached to their stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's just, I mean, it's a physical reminder of people and places. It's very easy to look at an item and say, well, this reminds me of that time or that place. And so I think that's probably a big part of it, especially like we're working with people in transition a lot. And so they're moving their parents into assisted living, or a parent has passed away. And so they're dealing, like, there's a sense of guilt often because they see this item and this item reminds them of the parent or their parents or the person who owned it previously. Like, it meant something to them, like they were proud of it, they enjoyed it, like, and you may not get the same enjoyment out of the item as they did, but you preserve it because you want to protect that feeling or protect that person who's no longer here. So there's a lot of emotional weight that falls on these items, and they stop being just a thing, and they become some representation of a life that was lived or a person that was there. So I think that's part of it. I think there's like, we talk a lot about this messy bed, messy head concept.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think we realize how much like friction, like how much noise the stuff in our environment causes for us, like just from a physical mental health standpoint. But like, you just get used to it. You stop seeing the pile of laundry in the corner.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I see it in my daughter's room all the time because she's ridiculous, but she
That's my
doesn't
son's
see
rule.
it. Yeah, I don't think she sees it anymore. You just walk past that pile and you stop paying attention to it. And so I think things probably stick around longer than they should, just because they become part of the place. Um, we have houses that are designed to store a lot of things, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of effort that has to go into disrupting that perception of organization. And so it's easier to leave it and not think about it. So we have a lot of internal discussions about pain versus pleasure. And like,
Mm.
usually
Yep.
when people call us, they call us because it's crossed over into that pain threshold. They're not finding joy in getting rid of it. They're alleviating, um, some
Well,
sort
because
of pain.
I know a lot of like, especially the physical clutter, it can literally become a painful experience because you're tripping over it. Something has fallen, something, whatever. Like there have been
Yeah.
houses I've gone in where I'm like, okay, you can't even walk in this room properly without hurting yourself. And like I said, a lot of, the people I've worked with as well is seniors. And it's like, your mobility is already decreased as it is. We don't need this to be even worse.
Mhm.
So literally the clutter becomes a physical hazard for them and a health hazard for them because first of all, they're already in like the fall, like, being able to fall easier because they're, balancing everything like that. So yeah, so the physical part, but yeah, I absolutely agree with the mental. I usually say when somebody is at that point of where, it's gotten to the painful part of it, where they're like, no, I have to get rid of this, something in their life has changed. Like there's a major shift in their life, whether that is literally like, the one lady you were talking about, like the passing of her partner and stuff like that, or it's new baby, oh, we got to downsize, oh, we got to move, something happened, I lost my job, a new, my kids are no longer in the house. Like there's something that has like drastically changed in their life that makes them want to finally look at it and go, crap, this is way too much stuff. We don't need this. And then it becomes overwhelming because majority of the people have no idea where to start. Hence where I come in.
Right.
And then the next
Yeah.
step is where you come in.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That feeling of overwhelm is real. We have those conversations a lot where some people will call and you can just tell they're like totally overwhelmed.
Yep.
And
They're
you're
like
like, well,
almost in tears while they're on their phone with you.
yeah, they're like, I don't know where to start. Like, I like, where's the count? And so that's where we'll say, hey, are you looking for somebody to come and just make it go away? Because we're really good at that. Like, we're kind of like,
We're
we're
pretty
like
good
the
at that
blunt.
part.
Yeah, we're like the blunt tool. But if you need somebody who's going to come in and open the boxes and go through that like conversation of what does this mean to you? And this thing is not the person. And so let's
Mhm.
talk about like that's where you would come in and be able to have those conversations
Yep.
and direct
I've had
it.
plenty of those conversations, to say the least. Yes.
Yep. And we've been there. We've had some organizers who are like, just quickly keep her go, keep her go, keep her go. And then when they say go, we put it right on the truck and they don't have the chance to think about it again. And then we have the other situations where it is more sensitive and you're kind of working through it. And then, you make a plan that way. So we've been in those environments, but that's part of this process. And then when you do it more often, because now we have people who call us, like we're not a recurring business. So we're not like a housekeeper that
Yep.
you come out every week, but we try to talk to people about, well, let's talk about a clutter management plan and put us on the schedule for twice a year or quarterly so that you've got the law of the imminent deadline working. Like at some point in the next 3 months, the guys are going to come out. So let's get that stuff ready, or let's start making a pile, or let's think about the things so we're intentional about what ends up in our house. And people get better at that when they practice it and when they think about it. And I think when they realize how easy it can be to have someone like us come out and take care of it.
Oh, 100%. Like that's why I like when this podcast was on my docket or whatever, I was like, yes, we need to talk about this because this is huge. Because a lot of people, they think, okay, yeah, just junk removal, let's just move in and let's be gone. But that's not the same. That's why I love like what you just said about the fact that you have, at least once quarter or even like twice a year where we're coming back. So okay, you have this room to now, figure out. Yes, it's not us that we're going to go through the emotional part of it, the mental part of it, the spiritual. And this is why like my entire business is the mind, body, soul, and the home, because they all are connected.
Right.
There is not one without the other. There is not, and like you were saying earlier, we are so like consumed with social media, with the commercials, with whatever of all of the things. Oh, buy this, buy that, like TikTok shop alone. I'm like, thank God that's not a thing in Canada, because people in Canada, like all my clients, I'd be like, listen, we're going to now deal with this. I'm going to bring somebody in as a financial person because you don't need this crap.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. Like when you're buying something as cheap as it is, it's just crap. But as you were saying at the beginning of the podcast, consumerism is such a thing right now. That's all they want us to do is buy, 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 buy. But then when we get to that point, and then all of a sudden we look around, we're like, wait, why do I have this? Why do I have that? Whatever. And it's like, oh, sometimes it's, the emotional side of it is the memories. But then other times it's like, what the F was I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they call you and they're like, just get it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that dopamine hit. Like, we see it a lot where we are picking up stuff, like clearing out a garage, clearing out a closet, and it's got brand new stuff, tags still attached from Home Goods and Target and Ross. And, because you get in the habit of buying and these things aren't really intended. I mean, that's why we've become really vocal about the circular economy, which maybe isn't great for business for me. Like when our business is for people to buy and discard, like this idea of buying things that can be used in multiple phases or are intended to be purchased with durability and longevity. Like that's the way it used to be. And we've kind of gotten away from that. And we're so linear now in the way we consume. It is becoming a problem. And I was on during the summers, our busy time. And so on Mondays and Fridays, I'm back out in the truck riding with the guys. And so yesterday, sitting in line at the dump, and you're just like, this is an endless stream. Like this is one one spot in one part of the county, in hundreds of thousands of counties where people are sitting in the same line, and it's just pounds and pounds and pounds of stuff,
Yeah.
that is used once and gone.
Yeah. And that's the harsh reality because, like you said, that's just one county, let alone how many people are in the United States, let alone how many people are in Canada, let alone how many people are across the globe. And yes, there are some, I find that it's more of a Western issue because, we have the bigger houses. And oh, well, if you outgrow your house, oh, just buy a bigger one, which means people try and fill it up with more stuff. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, no, no. This is why, like, I've become obsessed. Now, I don't have a tiny home. I have like a 1,000 square foot home. And even that is too big for me because I'm like, what? I only live in the living room or my office area and my bedroom. Now, obviously, the kitchen stuff, but my kids have their bedroom, but it's enough for now that I was like, okay, but maybe later we'll buy property, still have the tinier home, but then be able to have other like more or less like a compound, like the family compound type thing. But again, it's reusing what you already have. Like I don't understand the concept of people just going, and this is where like with my business, I'm like, people want the like, oh, the pretty bins and the whatever. I was like, no, 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 no. No. We're not gonna just put things in a pretty bin and move it from one spot to another when it do you use it? Do you even use it? If
Right.
you don't, donate it and give it to somebody who will use it. But I think that's the thing because there's like the home edit is probably one of my least favorite, and I haven't even watched a full episode, but this is probably why. But it seems like it's the let's put things in pretty bins and make your closet look pretty, and we'll kind of deal with the mental emotional stuff, but really it's all about the pretty and the aesthetic part of it.
Hmm.
What about how you actually use it day to day? Because I can come in, sure, and this is why I'll never declutter without the client there. Because I could come in and be like, oh yeah, yeah, let's reorganize this, let's get rid of this, let's do that, whatever, blah, blah. But it doesn't work for their life. So when you don't make
Hmm.
something work for your life, you're not going to be able to sustain it. And then they're calling you, the next day being like, okay, just get rid of this. Oh, and then they're calling me the next month and okay, let's get, because my business, just like you were saying, like it's not good for business that we're trying to do it so that, okay, now you're on your own or now you've gotten rid of the stuff because, you know, but at the same time, I don't want somebody to need me all the time. And
Right.
just like, you don't you don't want somebody to need you all the time because they keep buying when they get rid of, buying when they get rid of. So
Yeah.
is there a client or somebody that like whether it's laughter, whether it's side by sides of the lady that you were talking about before, but like that sticks out in your mind of all the years you've done it? Is there one client that just like absolutely like becomes one of those like I will remember this forever?
Yeah. And I talk about this lady a lot. But we had come into her home to pick up some furniture to be donated. So we work with this organization that, is sort of uh, like a clearinghouse for donation for charities. So
Mhm.
if you want to go to Habitat for Humanity or Goodwill, you go to this one webpage and they will donate to those charities and they pair up with a local hauler. So in this case, we were the local hauler. So we came to pick up some furniture. And it was a pretty nice house, in a more rural part of town. And we walk in, and the ground is covered in like white powder, and we're like, that's weird. And then like we look in and like there's no judgment in any of this because we're in all sorts of homes all the
Yeah.
time. But yes, for one that sticks out. So like we walk in, we notice the white powder, and then I look in the corner and I see feathers. And so we're like trying to figure out what's going on. And then I can see through the living room in the back, there's like a flock of ducks. Um, and so she gets to the door and she must have noticed that we were kind of trying to put this together. And she's like, it's duck poop. And we're like, okay. And then we go on. And so we get to know her pretty well. And what we find out is that her husband had passed away unexpectedly. And she was just very matter of fact about the whole thing. She's like, my husband passed away. Taking care of the ducks and taking care of the house was literally the least of my worries. Like she's like, I could barely get out of bed. Like
Yeah.
none of this mattered. And so this was part of the healing. So she was now out of bed. She was now having us come in and remove things. And we had probably been back to her house like 6 times over the course
Mhm.
of our relationship with her, where we finally got her where she'd sold the house, she'd moved out, helped her move into a new place, and you just got to see her like heal and go through the grieving process, go through this part of sort of re-entering the world. And so it was a good one reminder of like, you can't judge anybody. Like you walk into these situations, and most of the time when we get involved, we're in those moments of transition. But even like we get a lot of questions about hoarding, and we don't do a lot of hoarding. Like it comes up and we do it periodically, but it's not an everyday occurrence for us.
Yeah.
But when you are in those environments, like you realize like this is like everybody will tell you, oh, I have a lot of stuff, I'm a hoarder. Like, no, you're not. Like this is what hoarding is, and it's sad and it's an illness, and it's like there's a lot going on in those situations. And so you just have to be like mindful that people are going through really human things in these situations, and the stuff is a symptom or a byproduct of what's going on in their life. But to see her go through that healing process and become a person and who's comfortable and sort of moving on with the next phase was really fulfilling. And it came from a place where we could have just been like, did you see that thing? Like there's dog poop all over the ground. And we chose not to approach it that way. And she was really good about, sort of sharing what she was going through and using us and the resources available to her in that way.
Well, because it takes a lot, like, and like I've said, I've seen many different, from one end where, the person from the outside looks perfect and prim and proper and whatever. And I was like, why am I even cleaning this house type thing? To realize, as I, over the years, realizing, oh, no, 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 there's a spectrum. And this is where, like, I've got a thing where it's like, it's a spectrum of like, almost like the OCD, and then there's the hoarder on the other side, where, this person was closer to the OCD because they couldn't control the inner world. They couldn't control their mind. They couldn't figure out why their relationships were failing and stuff like that. Because on the outside, to everyone else, because she was a business owner, etc., in the town, and everyone's like, "Oh, you've got the perfect marriage," blah blah. Meanwhile, as I'm cleaning or as I'm doing their house, they're fighting. Like, I mean, they didn't care that I was in the house. They didn't care that I was whatever. They were fighting, screaming at each other, throwing things at each other. I'm like, should I go? Like, should I
Right.
not? But again, it's that spectrum where it's like, you on the outside, when people come over, you look perfect, prim, your life is perfect, but it's not. Your relationship, and years later, they ended up getting divorced because she found out he was cheating on her and all that stuff. And now she's remarried and happy and everything, but she couldn't control what was happening in her relationships, internally, her mind, all that stuff. So she controlled her stuff. Whereas somebody who's a hoarder, it's gotten so overwhelming internally and mentally and all that stuff, that to actually do anything about the physical stuff, there was nothing. And then it just adds up and adds up and adds up and adds up. So, like, the spectrum, this is why I say to people, no, 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 you want to be in the middle. Like, yeah, everyone has clutter. I have clutter. I've currently stuff at my front door waiting to go out to the
Yeah.
second hand, but I haven't found the box to get it because I got rid of all the boxes. But I don't think people understand that it's okay to have a bit of clutter, to have a few things that are not in the exact spot, but don't get it to a point where you're so overwhelmed that it's affecting your relationships. You're so overwhelmed, it's affecting your health. So, like, with that, and this is why I was saying, like, I love the fact of, when we were talking about, why do people have clutter? Why do they even have stuff? Well, yeah, you were talking about it earlier, the consumerism. Like, we can't fight that. So how do we stop it? Okay, well, I had one client that she basically said, it wasn't until after she worked with me that she's like, I was in, I think it was a Target or something like that. And you know how Target has those $1 aisles, like as soon as you're going towards the checkout. That is all meticulously placed, let me just tell you. So, of course, she normally would have been like, oh, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to grab that. She goes, I came to a point and I realized, why am I grabbing this? Do I actually want this? Or am I just going to declutter it later? And she goes, that was my biggest aha moment since whatever. She goes, that was crazy. She goes, that changed the game for me. And I think the same with, with what you do is, you know, am I buying this because I actually like it? Or am I buying it and I'm going to call Cameron and his crew to come get it later?
Right.
something I actually want, or am I just going to get rid of it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. We, I don't know if you got them up there, but we have these stores called Five Below, and everything's supposed to be $5 or less.
Ours is five,
They're,
like the dollar store, Dollarama. Yeah.
yeah, and with inflation, everything is not less than $5. But we used to go there, and the kids would buy like, if you're going to a birthday party, you could buy like four things for. And so my daughter's 13, and she's like, "Can we go by Five Below?" And so we walk in, and she's like, "There's nothing I want here. Everything in here is crappy. They they must not have good stuff anymore." I'm like, they never had good stuff. It's just
You
like
just grew up. Yeah.
yeah, you become aware that you're wasting your money on some of these other things. So it's cool to see her have that little bit of awakening. But yeah, it is that like that quick hit. Like I want to buy this without thinking. It's cheap enough that I don't have to. It's not going to hurt me financially if I indulge myself in this thing, and then that thing ends up in a drawer on the counter or in the back of the closet, and you forgot you bought it, and you didn't change your life one way or the other, and now all of a sudden it's one of those things that I forget the stat, you probably know it, but um, the volume of things that come in versus the things that go out, but it's like a 5-to-1 ratio or something. It's like every
It's
day we're bringing in
absolutely
lots of stuff.
astonishing. Yeah. And that's where like one of my rules out, and even with my kids, like when they were younger and stuff, I don't have to do as much now because they just get money now because they're
Right.
like teenagers.
Right.
But when they were kids, anytime it was their birthday, Christmas, Easter, or something where they were gonna get gifts or something as part of the thing, I'd be like, all right, go to your closets, go to your wardrobe, go to whatever, and we're getting rid of some of the stuff because I'm always like a one in, one out.
Right.
And actually, I'm in my own closet, I was a one in, five out, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
nope, don't use this, don't use this.
Right.
But yeah, with them as kids, it was a matter of like, no, no, you're not getting Christmas gifts. And if you're saying you don't want to get rid of anything, oh cool, then you don't need Christmas gifts. Like
Right.
that was the ideal, because it's like,
Right.
no, you don't need an entire room full of stuff. Now, mind you, they dad and I are split, so dad on dad's side they had a whole entire playroom, so they're like, fine, we'll just get dad
Right.
together. But anyways,
Right. Yeah.
but that was my thing, and the kids watch us as much as we try and tell them, as much as they whatever. But when we get them into the habits, and the same with your daughter, like she probably watched you, she probably sees you going out, and hears all this stuff, whatever, and all of a sudden it's like, do we really want this? No, it's actually junk. I even said, so Canada Day, we just had Canada Day, as of recording, just July 1st. But and it was funny because my one girlfriend, she's like, oh, do you have any decorations? I was like, for what? Like, what do I need decorations for? I'm like, I've got red plates and I've got napkins. What else do you want? And she's
Right.
like, well, no, this. I was like, you think I'm going to spend money on like random stuff that I'm only going to literally be able to pull out once a year? And so she brought stuff over. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm like, you're taking it all at home.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. I'm not, I used to be a Christmas person. I'm not a Christmas person anymore because I spend 12 months a year removing Christmas decorations from people's garages, and like the volume of stuff that is brought out and takes up storage. But I mean, it's an annual expense because people are filling their storage units with Christmas decorations, or I mean, we spend a lot of money per square foot on our houses to fill it up with these part-time decorations. And if if it brings you joy, like again, that's what it's there for. But not for me. Like it's boxes and boxes and boxes
Yep.
of decorations that are just taking up space that we end up disposing of. And so
Well, and then we think there's a lot of people, a lot of generations, especially the older generation right now, like you were saying earlier about how, they do collections and stuff like that. Well, then they think, oh, I'm going to pass it down to my children or my grandchildren. They don't want that crap.
Mhm.
Like, there's actually a TikTok, I don't forget what his name
Right.
is, but there's a TikToker that literally, I think it's like millennial something or other, where it's like the generation that has to deal with those who collected a crap ton of things. Because I get it. I get back in, depression time, anytime you know, you didn't find a nail, or it was hard to get the screws, or it was hard. So, that generation collected and collected. Like my grandfather, we literally, when I say, when we were clearing them out, we cleaned everything and the kitchen sink. We literally had a kitchen sink up in the attic that we were
Yeah.
clearing out. We're like, what in the world. But that's the generation that's so used to having so much stuff because they didn't have stuff. So that's another thing, that my business comes in. It's like, okay, let's deal with the mental, the emotional, and it's generational. Like sometimes there's people that I've talked to that they're like, I don't even know why I have this. I was like, what did your parents do or grandparents do? And then we get into the fact of like, oh, this is it. Like our nervous system, especially women to women to women, like we literally have eggs when we're in our grandmother. Like we are still an egg in our mom and our grandmother. So all of
Yeah.
that genetics comes through. So if our grandmother was like stressed out or whatever, and I know, we may not have like the screw part of it, like, oh, keep this, but it's that thoughts, the energy of it that comes in. And it's like, oh, we want to keep stuff when we're like, well, why are we keeping this?
Hmm.
But then when you look back and you're like, oh, because generations before me, this is just what they did. And I didn't question it until now. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's so funny. Sorry, that was like probably one of the first times I've actually like said that on my podcast, because I'm like, I find it so interesting just why people keep stuff. And this is why I love this podcast episode, is because it is so different to talk to males versus females as well. Like that has like a big, and we could go on forever, but I'm not going to do that in this episode. Maybe I'll do a solo one on that one.
Right.
But yeah, like one of the things that I wanted to actually ask when we were talking about storage is, have you seen, I think it's George Carlin. He's obviously passed on, but he did a skit on stuff. I think it literally is called Stuff. I'll link it, listeners, into the show notes, because it is the funniest thing for me, because he goes, like, he basically talks about like, why do we have stuff? Oh, wait, we created a storage area to have more stuff. And then when we go on vacation, we have to put our stuff in a drawer, and then the stuff here, and then the stuff, like and obviously he does a better job of it than I do. I'm not a comedian, but yes, like I said, Cameron, if you watch that afterwards, it's the funniest thing.
Yeah.
Listeners, I'll link it in the notes, because it can't, like, there is hard truth to what he like jokes about, but there is truth behind his jokes, because we keep so much stuff that we have to have a like storage locker. We have to have a garage full of like everything. Like I literally just helped a client last year, and then her son had to move in with her, so he put all her stuff in the nicely clean garage that we just did and decluttered and whatever. And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Right.
So then of course she's messaging me and she's like, hey, do you remember where we put this? And so because I have before and after photos, I sent her a thing, and I'm like circling, I'm like, it's right here. And she goes, thank you. She goes, and I now have to step over everything and blah, blah. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, well, that's job security. I mean, there's no shortage of stuff, so you and I get to keep working.
That is fantastic. Is there anything that you would like the listeners to know? Because before I end with what I usually ask all listeners, is there one last thing that you're like, oh, before we go, I have to, just give them a tip or something that I just need to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think you led off with this. I don't know if I fully answered it, but we're the only US based B Corp certified junk removal company. And so B Corporation, sometimes that matters to people, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they don't know what it is, but it's like if you look at a Patagonia or Tom's of Maine or Tom's Shoes, like they have this logo that's got a B with a circle around it. And what it means is we've been vetted and verified through this third-party entity that essentially assures that we balance purpose with profits. And so our giving program and our commitment to circularity and some of those things are all part of that. The B Corp is cool, and I'm proud that we have it. It doesn't move the needle for marketing, but it is an accountability tool for us. And so I can look at everything we do and measure it against that to say, is this consistent with what we've committed to do to put this B logo on our truck? So that's I think an important thing to say out loud, just in terms of completing the picture of who we are, but why and how we do things. And then related to that, like one of the things that kind of comes up in that conversation, if I think back to my days in the events business, I went to the Disney Institute a couple times. And the Disney Institute will tell you that the number one question asked in a Disneyland park is, what time is the 3 o'clock parade? And
Mm.
so you could be like, well, that's stupid. Like, you already know the answer to that, but that's not really what they're
Okay.
asking. They're asking, like, what time do we need to get in line to see the parade? Like, where's the best place to stand? Like, all there's 100 different questions that they want to ask, but they don't know how to articulate it. So they ask, what time is the 3 o'clock parade? So then when I think about our business, I'm like, well, what is our 3 o'clock parade question? And the question that we get most often when people get on the phone is, hey, I don't know if you do this, but my stuff's not junk. And so what they're saying is, like, this stuff still has value. It's no longer useful to me, but it still has value. And I want to make sure that that value is preserved one way or the other. Um, and so we're very sensitive to that. So that has to do with, can we divert it from landfill? Can we sell it to somebody? Can we give it away? Can we recycle it? Where does it fall in that value chain in terms of circularity? But it's really just understanding, what are people asking, and they're saying, it's not no longer useful to me, but it is still useful. And so I think that's maybe one of those. I don't know if it's a tip per se, but to think through your stuff and to deal with the emotion of the items is, even if it's no longer useful to you, it is to somebody else. And so look at it with that filter, and that may make the decision making a little bit easier.
That's awesome. And that leads into, so I ask all of my podcast guests, what is something for listeners listening for their mind, their body, their soul, and their home? You can give one generic one for all four or individual ones for each. A tip for them to go away today and go, okay, no, this is good. I'm going to write this down, and this is what I'm going to practice this week.
Yeah, I think because talked about that earlier, how all those things are connected in our business. And so I was reading through that this morning. I'm like, man, I don't know if I could come up with 5 different tips for each one of those areas. I think, and you probably experienced this too, because there is so much overwhelm in this. Um, Sometimes it's just start with an easy and a small decision. Start in a closet. Start in a bathroom. Start someplace where you can just start to make a little bit of progress, because there's real momentum that builds just in terms of a decluttering approach, and it gets the decision. I think there's a lot of decision fatigue. Like, you definitely see it when people start. It's like they're deliberating over every decision, this shirt or that shirt, like, and then all of a sudden, just take it. And so the the sooner you can make some of those decisions, even with the lower consequence areas, then it makes the bigger decisions a little bit easier as you move forward. So that kind of touches on, I think, one, the mental noise, but also uh, the physical space. The other thing, I've talked about circularity a couple times. Um, I don't know how many people really understand the circular economy. I think people generally understand it, like, from a big picture perspective,
Mhm.
but like, I always use an example of a bicycle for the circular economy, where you're like, if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, my son has this bike, he's outgrown it, um, take it. I can do 3 things with it. 4 things. I can trash it.
Yep.
Um, that's probably not the most responsible choice, but it's a choice. It gets it out of their home and out of their hair.
Solve their problem. Yep.
Right. I can recycle it, which is better, because we preserve the material value. So the metal and the elements that have gone into making that bike get to continue to exist in this world and be repurposed in a way that's useful. So that's a good choice. Or the better choice is to resell it or donate it so it can continue to be used as a bike, because you not only preserve the material cost, but you preserve all the time, effort, and money spent in manufacturing and distributing and selling and buying. Like, there's a lot of energy that was expended in the creation of that bicycle beyond the material cost. And by donating it or reselling it, it continues to be used and stay. And so that's the essence of the circular economy. The linear approach is make it, sell it, use it, trash it. And circulars keep that thing spinning. You and I are probably on the backside of that circle, where we're really
Yeah.
trying to recover and preserve as much as you can. The front of that circle is making conscious consuming decisions to buy the more durable product that is going to last longer, or buy the product that was made from recycled material, or buy secondhand. Like we moved in our warehouse and office in March. We did not buy a single thing. Take the back. We bought computers, which we bought refurbished, and then phones. But otherwise, from the desk to the lamps to the chairs, the conference table, the TVs on the wall, are all things that we've picked up.
I love it. I
Our
love that.
Gaylord boxes,
Absolutely.
our hand trucks, like it's all found. And so from a consumer decision, it's buy secondhand, borrow where you can, buy recycle, buy durable, and that helps on the front end. The manufacturers have to be responsible and make products that are durable, because in this consumer driven world, there's a lot of money made and functional obsolescence, and you know,
Well,
timing
I find
things.
the appliances are the worst. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they used to last like 20 years. Now they last maybe 3. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Just fuck this.
that garage fridge from like 1984 is
Right?
still plugging away. Like I just saw something the other day that was like, it's been really hot here in Charlotte, but it's like refrigerator stopped working at 110 degrees. I mean, it's 100 degrees outside of the garage. Like those things should not be working, but they're still plugging away. And that $4,000 French door fridge, in your kitchen, you get 3 years out of it, and it's got to go away.
It's
So
absolutely
I guess
crazy.
that's the other tip is, if you can spend a little more on the more durable thing, and hopefully and put pressure on manufacturers to build products that can last longer, or that can at least be broken down or repurposed or reassembled, so that their parts or their components can continue to exist even.
Yeah, we have
Or
a couple of guys that come around for the metal. Like you literally can put, a metal pole, like broken metal, whatever, on the grass, and they pick it all up, and then they do that recycling because there's an
Yeah,
incentive for them to do it, and an incentive for every, homeowner to like, yeah, I'll put it on my lawn. You can either message them saying, hey, I've got this, or they just go around the whole entire neighborhood. There's like a bunch of them that
right.
just go around, collect all the metal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to tell I'm like, when I grew up, and I'm old, but I'm not that old, like that in the shopping center, there's like a cobbler who repaired shoes. There's a vacuum repair shop. Like
Yeah.
the
We
idea
need to repair
that,
things as opposed to just throw them out, right?
yeah, yeah, like go fix a vacuum. I mean, we probably threw away 5 vacuums yesterday. And so,
Wow.
um, and I know because I was on the
Crazy.
truck, so it's like, they're not designed, they're made out of plastic. They're not designed to be repaired. They're closed systems. And so, and they're not inexpensive either.
Yeah, see, I get all
So
my stuff, like even with the only thing I didn't get secondhand from any of my businesses was my cleaning cloths, only because I ran out and I was like more clients that I was like, I need more cloths. I'm like, and
right,
they don't have any at the secondhand store anymore. So I had to get new ones. So other than that, everything, like between the mops, all that stuff, it was somebody else was shutting down their business. And I was like, I'll take it. Yep, we're good. Like it's all like, no, I'll reuse it, whatever. And obviously the cleaning stuff is all environmentally friendly, kid friendly, all that stuff as well, because of the fact that it's that same thing. And I have like, the little tablets filled with water, because our environmental impact is so huge as human beings. And you know, we're growing as a population. So therefore more crap is coming.
right. Yeah. Well, and I hate to, like, I come on here and I feel like I'm talking from like some high hill. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I could bring the truck to my house tomorrow and I could fill it. And my wife was like, hey, do you know a good junk removal guy? Because our guy sucks. Like he never comes to our house. So, um, so I definitely am like there. I buy from, there are things that come into my house from Amazon. Like where I'm there with everybody. So I'm not speaking from
Yeah, but
some,
you're not blinded to the fact that you also, like, yeah, there's stuff I have as well. Like you're not just, oh no, I'm good, like I'm perfect, like I'm fantastic type thing. You're like, no, 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 there's same with me. Like I said, I have clutter. I have literal clutter at my front door waiting to go out, and I just haven't removed it because you're not in Canada, so that doesn't work.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, and I think like sometimes there's pressure, and we feel it. Like there's this really awesome place in Charlotte called the Innovation Barn. and they're supposed to be this working lab of like the circular economy. And so we used to
Mm.
volunteer there, and it would be really cool. Like they have all these awesome projects where they'll like, they take the pack tex, like the 4-pack for beer, and they shred them and then they turn them into kids toys. Like they've 3D print them, or they've got injection molding and they turn them into, which is like really cool. And so the guys will leave there after we volunteer and they're like super motivated, and I love that they're motivated. But then I'm like, we are not a subsidized um, city funded thing that is there to be an example to the world. We have to be profitable, and sometimes being profitable doesn't mean being perfect. And then we realized like it's not about putting money in my pocket. Like obviously I started a business to be able to provide for my family and provide for my employees and do all those things. But if we don't make money, then all the good work we're doing goes away. We can't do any of it. So we have to have that as a focus. And that's why I like the B Corp, because it encourages you to balance both of those things. And so you have to make choices sometimes. And so when we talk about landfill diversion, last year, we diverted right around 50% of what we put our hands on,
That's
which
fantastic.
was, yeah, I'm really proud of that number. I'm also self-conscious of that number, but it was like 520,000 pounds of material or something like that, 580,000 pounds of
Yeah,
stuff that we
it was
kept
on the
out of
website. It
the
was 500 and something. I remember that for sure.
landfill, which means we put our hands on 1 million pounds of stuff last year, and kept 500 out of it, which also means 500,000 pounds went to the dump. In years before that, we were right around 30%. And I was very self-conscious of 30%. And then you tell people, and they're like, 30% is amazing. Like that's 300 and something thousand pounds that didn't go to landfill. Like if you can make that decision, and we're just one small company. So if everybody is making those decisions and those add up to a big thing. And I think that was a lesson learned from COVID, was like, it's easy to talk about like think local, act, or think global,
Global,
act
act
local.
local. Yeah.
And I was like, no, let's think local and act global, because the things that we do here in our community have the most impact on our lives. And if those things, if everybody thinks that way, then that will eventually get you to the global. But I don't like, let me just think about how I can make my little world better here, and that'll get us there.
But the other thing is too, it's when you do think local, act local, you're also affecting somebody like your child, somebody
Right.
like somebody else's child. They'll see you come in, you have the conversations. Like we don't know what the next generation is really listening to, watching, etc. So if they see us
Yeah.
be more, open mind and more like conscious of what we bring in the house, what we actually buy, what we keep, what etc. It's like, yeah, no, I don't actually want that. Like I know with my kids, there's 100% I have an effect on them whether they like it or not. But
Right.
but that's
Right.
the thing. It's that next generation. If we can just keep that up, and then their generation, they already have the mindset of not the consumerism completely, but they have that. No, 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 no. I remember my mom made that into a plant stand instead, and I remember, my dad. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't need to buy all this stuff because his company will just take it away later. Like it's
Right.
it's those things that were affecting them that I think is going to be the biggest impact, and we may not see it 100% in our lifetime, but I know we're going towards like there is definitely a shift right now towards the more sustainable lifestyle versus the consumerism lifestyle. So,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. I think we're definitely, there's always a rebound to some of these things. And so hopefully we rebound in that direction. And I think just to kind of add what you said, or you said it, that helped make it clear, but we just talked about how when you're clearing out your own house, start small, make the easy choices, the ones that, and so that's the same with the more global sort of perspective, is if you just make these small choices as often as you can, then that will gradually build and demonstrate and have sort of ripple effects down the line that improve it for all of us. And so that's, I guess that's the takeaway of what we're trying to do here, is just make the best choice as often as you can. Don't worry about being perfect, because sometimes that, that
well,
perfect is like great is
perfection
the
doesn't
enemy of good
actually exist.
thing. Like,
It literally perfection does not exist. So what's perfect for
yeah,
you is not perfect for me, which is not perfect for one of the listeners, etc. Like perfection does not exist. Just do what works for you in your life, and then like we say, like have that local and global thought of what is the effect of me bringing this into my home, or what is the effect of me doing this actually have. So Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Cameron, for being on the podcast. And listeners, I will put all of the links to his website, etc., social medias in the show notes, as well as his tips and everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you.